Hi there, legal writers. Welcome to this Legal Grammar Redux video series with me, Jill Barton from the University of Miami School of Law. In this video series, I will cover 12 grammar topics that are also covered in chapters 19 and 20 of the Handbook for the New Legal Writer. So if you're a new legal writer, you are in the right place. These videos will cover 8 grammar basics. These are topics that you have definitely seen before, but now that you are writing as a new lawyer, you might need a refresher. And then I also cover what I call advanced grammar principles. And these are topics that are probably still somewhat familiar to you, but now that you are a legal writer, you need to pay extra special attention to them. So let's get started with grammar basic number 1, and let's talk sentences. Now, sentences are a pretty basic topic. We all know how to write a sentence. We all know that a sentence has a main subject and a main verb that match. The problem in legal writing is that we like to write a lot of very long, very messy, sometimes, sentences in the law. And so we just have to make sure that we are keeping our sentences in a proper grammatical form. One issue that might come up is that we might have a sentence where our main subject and our main verb are separated by a long intervening clause. So here we have a main subject that's singular, and it should have a main verb, describes, that's also singular, but we have an intervening clause that is plural. So this can create some difficulty, especially as we read it. It might not even sound correct to our ear, but we have to make sure the main subject and the main verb match, and it's always good to keep those as close together as possible. Another issue that might happen if we're combining a bunch of different clauses and sentences is that we might lose sight of having a main verb at all. Here we have just a gerund or a participle objecting, which obviously doesn't create a main verb situation for this sentence. And then we also have an introductory clause that also doesn't have a main verb. So they need to have a main verb. Now, this is a rule, except for when it is not. And you will see in some Supreme Court opinions and other types of legal writing that some judges and legal writers take some liberties with this rule. Justice Scalia famously wrote in a dissent, "Pure applesauce." Justice Kagan has also had some very witty quips. Most of the justices do write sentence fragments. So if you are going to tackle a sentence fragment, make sure that your writing is absolutely perfect so your reader knows that you are intending to write a sentence fragment that doesn't have a main subject and a main verb. And for the newest legal writers out there, I would suggest sticking with the basic sentence structure first, mastering that. If you have sentences that are compound, meaning you have something that could be 2 sentences combined into one, just make sure that you combine them correctly. So here we have a comma splice. This is 2 sentences combined with just a comma. Maine's drafting manual instructs lawmakers to skip the serial comma. That's 1 sentence. Its guidance made one law unclear enough to result in a $5 million settlement. That's a 2nd sentence. Combined only with a sentence, this is incorrect. It creates a run-on, and this is actually true. The legislative drafting manual in Maine did advise to not use the serial comma, something we will not do, and it did cause a settlement in a legal dispute. So we are going to fix our run-ons in one of 5 ways. First, we can just combine 2 sentences that are closely related with a semicolon. That's a simple enough fix, but we're only going to do that if the sentences are very closely related. Secondly, we can fix this run-on by adding a coordinating conjunction. Now, coordinating conjunction is just a fancy word for a little conjunction. These include and, or, but, nor, so, and yet. We can combine 2 sentences just with a simple comma and a simple coordinating conjunction. A third way to fix a run-on is to use a more complicated conjunction called a conjunctive adverb. These are those longer, fancier words you sometimes see in legal writing, like however and nevertheless, furthermore, instead, rather. And for this, we will use a semicolon following the first main clause. Then we will have a conjunctive adverb followed by a comma. This comma following that conjunctive adverb kind of follows how we would use a comma following an introductory clause for a sentence standing on its own. The 4th way, and this is my favorite way to fix a run-on, is just to make a long sentence Instead of a compound sentence, make it 2 sentences. We can just add a period and fix that run-on, taking out that comma. And then finally, if one part of the sentence is less important, or if you want to emphasize one part of the sentence, you can make one of the clauses a subordinate clause. So here you could say, because Maine's manual instructs such and such, its guidance made one law unclear enough to result in a $5 million settlement. My last tip for writing sentences is to keep it short. Of course, we want some variety in our legal writing, but for the most part, a legal sentence should be about 20 words. We can have some short ones, we can have some longer ones, but let's try to keep it right, as Dr. Seuss advised us. And I would just like to remind all of you that it takes time and effort, but everyone can be a great legal writer. And just by being here, you're taking some of the right steps to get there. Good luck, and I will see you next time.